a baby leopard seal there called Silas. And Silas is one of the stars of Ice Pups, a new documentary following a pack of leopard seals over one Antarctic winter.
Hydrogeleptonics, to use the Latin term. Yeah, I'm doing a little bit of reading, so...
Someone's very keen.
Yeah, well, I'm keen. I'm keen to give of my best. Here to tell us more about these mustachioed mammals is the show's creator, Alice Clunt. Welcome.
Oh, it's Alice Fluck.
Right, I see what I've done.
So, Alice, this isn't your first time getting close to the animal kingdom, is it? Once upon a time, you were shortlisted in the Shell Wildlife Photographer of the Year competition.
Many moons ago, yes.
The oil company, Shell.
They used to sponsor it, yes.
Well, do you know what? Good for them. I mean, you know, they get a lot of stick, don't they, for the Exxon Valdez oil spill. But then they sponsor a prize for animal photos, and you think, maybe it's time to take a fresh look at Shell.
But tell us about ice pups, because leopard seal pups really are the most incredible animals, aren't they?
They really are, Jenny. I mean, what you see in the pups and hopefully in the film is their spirit and their personality. Because don't forget, these guys are living in the most inhospitable place in the whole world. You know, they are tough.
You do not want to mess with a leopard seal. Well over a ton, teeth like giant daggers, top speed of 20 knots. A German U-boat commander would kill for velocity like that. Awesome.
Well, what you see in the film, they do have this wonderfully playful side as well.
And how? They toss penguins around like a rag doll and batter them against the sea till they're dead. Just wait for it, for fun. Brutal.
Well, they're mischievous, certainly, and that comes from just being so intelligent.
Well, the Allies trained them to deliver mines strapped to their backs to scuttle enemy craft in harbour. Boom, successful.
We don't really touch on that on this film. This film is more about them in infancy and adolescence, and hopefully it's one the whole family can enjoy.
Wrong tone.
Wow, they're plucky little so-and-sos though, aren't they?
They have to be. You know, they're only weaned for a month, and then it's up to them to fend for themselves.
Oh, breaks your heart, doesn't it?
When you're around them such a long time, it is hard not to get attached.
Oh, I think I'm a bit in love. Bless them. They're the most adorable little creatures. They seem to have such personality.
You almost want to give them a name.
Well, this one's called Silas.
Yeah, I know. I mean, a better one, though, like Richard. Oh, I don't know whether to eat him up or wear him. Do you know what I mean, though? I suppose Eskimos do both.
Well, you find leopard seals in the Antarctic.
Falklanders, then.
Now, Alice, the film ends with the sound of a seal cry, and it's quite a sound, isn't it? Actually, let's hear it.
It's not a sound you forget.
No.
When I heard that, I had an overwhelming sense of Gary Newman. And you know the other musician I was thinking of? Don't know why. Seal. I do know why.
It almost sounds sort of philosophical, doesn't it?
I don't think that's the right word, Jenny. I think it's remindful. It reminded me of my granddad.
Did it?
Yeah. He made funny noises and he had whiskers and he liked fish. He was a smashing granddad. One of my earliest memories, actually, is him taking me to the fun fair, and me asking for a candy floss, and then eventually he gave in and got me one, and took me home, said goodbye, but left his hat. And when I ran to the bus stop, he wasn't there. And I saw he was walking up the hill. That's when I realised he'd spent his bus fare on my candy floss. Grandad Graham. Grandad.
And you can see the whole of Alice's film on BBC One tomorrow night.
Alice Clunt.
Fluck.
Fluck.
Thank you very much for joining us. Why are clean hands important? Because humans are the most effective incubators of bacteria outside of imported meat. A fact first discovered 150 years ago in Soho, when its filthy reputation was based not on pole dancers from Lapland or lap dancers from Poland, Poland, but because of an outbreak of cholera. Imagine going into a newsagent and ordering not a can of Coca-Cola, but a can of Coca-Cola. That's effectively what the Soho residents were doing in 1854 when they came to draw water from this pump to sate, slake, or quench their thirst. That was before the physician John Snow discovered that the disease was spread through contaminated water. And this paved the way for the invention of antibiotics, a remedy against bacteria that initially seemed infallible. I said initially slightly louder because Whilst antibiotics once stopped bacteria like these from breeding like randy Catholic rabbits, their prophylactic power has become dulled through overuse. Many liken antibiotics to giving a box of chocolates to an angry spouse. The first time, the chocolates will overwhelm the wife and quell her ire completely. The 6th, 7th time, the chocolates still subdue the miffed woman, but less than they had earlier. And by the 20th time, the chocolates have little to no potency and can even inflame the problem further. I was troubled by this. I knew more than ever before that we needed to wash our hands. But were we doing? To find out for myself, I've come to the gents' toilets at the BBC to conduct a study of my own. Hello, Alan Partridge, BBC. Did you wash your hands?
Yep.
Good man. I've concentrated exclusively on the gents' loos. A man standing outside a women's lavatory can be seen as predatory. Equally, a man loitering outside a gentleman's toilet can be fraught with ambiguity. So, to put it on a more formal footing, I've got this woman with a clipboard. Sorry, what's your name?
Sarah.
Sarah.
Sarah?
Sarah.
Sarah.
Okay. The BBC employs some 20,000 people. Just write that down. And not all of them are going to wash their hands. Right, it is Sarah. I thought you had a list.
No, it's Arabic.
Okay. Menial workers, for example, are employed to pick up bits of dirt, and the likelihood of them ever being asked to shake hands with senior management are very low. Put him down as a no. Still, the results made for grim reading, with just 28% saying they washed their hands. Yeah, I'm going to wash my own hands later. Swindon. And I've come to the British School of Hygiene to ask Professor Jean Chowdhury how clean hands can stop the spread of germs. Hi, Jean.
Hi.
Hi. Jean, hand washing. How often should we be washing them?
Well, anytime we come into contact with bacteria. So, after going to the toilet.
Agreed.
After handling raw meat.
Right, and that's separate, isn't it? That's not a euphemism for the first one.
No. Raw meat can harbour some pretty nasty bacteria. So, if in doubt, wash. And the advice from the World Health Organization is that we should be washing our hands for a full 20 seconds.
15's fine.
Which is why there's actually an instructional video which shows exactly how to wash your hands.
Yes, please.
So we begin by rubbing the palms together, work up a nice creamy lather.
That's very creamy hands.
And then you rub the back of your left hand with the right palm with interlaced fingers.
Yeah.
And same with the other hand.
Yeah.
And rinse with warm water.
Yeah. Those taps are the same as the ones over there.
Oh, yeah, we shot it here.
Well, so those are your hands?
Mm-hmm.
It seemed to me you lived your life like a candle in the wind. So said Elton John about Marilyn Monroe, Princess Diana. The list goes on. But John was bigger than a mere candle. Seemed to me he lived his life like an oil rig flare stuck in a North Sea gale. Like an oil rig, he drew on huge reserves of energy, was physically quite squat, and thanks to his prodigious whiskey intake, helped prop up the economy of Scotland. Your candle burned out long before your legend ever did, continued Elton. And it's no exaggeration to say that Scotland's vast reserves of oil and gas would burn out long before John's legend is ever forgotten. Exaggeration? Possibly. Sentimental nonsense? Again, unwise to rule it out. But there is broad agreement that John was good. The former BBC television centre. John had a real appetite for this donut-shaped building and snaffled his way along the corridors, gorging on the opportunity as he chomped his way to the top. His big break, or mouthful, coming in 1985 with the BBC's Getaway.
And it needn't cost you a king's ransom.
Consisting largely of John in teeming holiday resorts, sampling cooked breakfasts in blazing sunshine, the show was, like the man himself, cheap and cheerful. A great show. Terrible reviews saw it cancelled before the end of its run. But it alerted the BBC's early warning system to John's talent, and he was now a big fat blip on their radar. This led to what John called his golden period, a veritable roll call of Britain's best-loved telly. Scotland's strongest man, Cash Chaser, Britain's holiest hymn, Fly Tip Squad, Britain by Balloon, Gibraltar CID. Which is why in 2012 he was named host of new magazine show This Time, delighting us all with puns about hedgehogs being prickly.
Prickly customers.
John Baskel, what was he like?
Oh, what are you like?
Yes, it seemed to me you lived your life like a candle in the wind. The Life of John Baskel, by Alan Partridge. Now, while Telly John was larger than life, Private John devoted himself quietly and without fuss or fanfare to his charitable foundation, the John Baskel Foundation. Here to tell us more about the humble work of John's foundation, the John Baskel Foundation, Jenny is joined by John's brave widow, Fran Baskel.
Thanks, Alan. Well, Fran, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Such a load of toss. I mean, just a bore of it. Too much sirloin till his colon threw in the towel. Yeah. What do you got?
Well, I've been on the phone to the council about the ramblers crossing your garden.
Go on.
They say it isn't a public footpath.
Hallelujah.
It's a public right-of-way.
What's that when it's a...
Well, it's like a public footpath, but horses can use it too. The previous owners didn't mind it, so it fell into public convenience.
What? I wish you'd fall into a public convenience. You mean public access?
Well, I quite like the idea of horses galloping across my view.
Yes, because your mind's addled with Catherine Cooks, and these riders don't gallop, Lynn. They just sit on their horses eating sandwiches in my garden.
You're coming across well.
Good.
Remember, there's a vacancy here now.
Lynn, keep your voice down. His body's barely cold.
Fortune favours the bold. The time is upon us.
Have you ever seen the Devil's Nanny from the film The Omen?
No, why?
Just you remind me of it, that's all. Try saying, "Have no fear, little one, I am here to protect thee."
Have no fear, little one. I am here to protect thee.
If you'd knocked on my door at Halloween, I would have fouled my unders. Yes, yeah, and then given you some sweets. As the Dalai Lama says, the show must go on.
Yeah, you cock a snook at bad news, don't you?
I do, actually. I'm a snook cocker.
I'm sure there's an anagram in there somewhere.
What?
Huh? I'm just saying, I'm sure there's an anagram in there somewhere. Doesn't matter. Press on. Introduce your next guest.
Calling me that? Not an anagram.
Simon Denton there.
Funny Simon Denton.
Yes.
What's fascinating about history is that, unlike bread in a bakery or love in a marriage, it's never going to run out.
But military history is a genre all of its own. A new series promises to shed light on battlefield ingenuity, and we'll be talking to its presenter, Sam Chatwin, very shortly.
Hello. Shortly. But first, since military history is a subject close to my heart, I thought I'd don my wellies and shed a bit of light on one of my favourite battles. Let's take a look at my report. A simple stream in North Walsham, Norfolk. But 6 centuries ago, this stream would have flowed with the blood and entrails of fallen men. I was hoping to illustrate it by pouring in this bucket of butcher's waste, but some Dilbert at the council seems to think it would contaminate the water supply. So close your eyes instead and imagine bits of dead men bobbing about in red water. This was the peasants' revolt of 1381, caused, some say, by underpaying the workers. But there's compelling evidence that low wages actually increases productivity. As Kirsty Allsop says, a well-fed dog is a slow dog. Whatever the pros and cons, there can be no excuse for the peasants' antisocial behaviour. The execution of their ringleaders serving as a timely reminder that laws are there for a reason. Behind me is North Walsham Heath. What today is a pleasant place to rest was once a peasant place of rest, since many of them lay dying here. You see, razzed up on scrumpian injustice, they brought to the battle only guts and aggression. And as anyone who's played squash against Adrian Chiles will tell you, guts and aggression are no match for skill and tactics, unless his opponents had a big breakfast. The battle was bloody. After the first day, the bishop's men set up camp here on the Heath, a place for the Poop's troops to regroup and recoup. They would have discussed tactics, with a free hot meal included. There were potatoes in those days, of course, they hadn't been developed. It was simply lamb shank or the classic chicken. In contrast, one can picture the peasants, loaded on cider, wheeling into bushes, telling disgusting jokes before attacking the bishop's men in dawn raids. but the lack of organisation meant they were no match for the deft swordsmanship and combat nous of a trained unit. The labourers were serfs, their hands more used to drawing milk from a goat teat than wielding a sword. The trained soldiers knew to have one hand on the hilt, the other on the pommel. That is what I do.
I've got kids!
God forgive me. The battle continued. The bishop's men fighting off futile frenzied and sometimes rubbish attacks from the peasants. The battle continued till dusk. The last of the rebels dispatched had a bloody defeat that could have been avoided if the peasants had simply raised their concerns through the correct channels. A sobering reminder that war, be it the First World War, the Second World War, or the Great War of China, always takes a heavy toll.
We've been fighting. And I was the winner.
Good evening.
Good evening and welcome to This Time with me, Jenny Gresham, and the man I am delighted, no, tickled pink, to announce is my new permanent co-host, Alan Partridge.
I'd like to tickle you pink. Tickle you pink.
So, end of an era, start of a new one.
Thank you. So many messages, the vast majority being positive. Also had a great meeting with the team. Had a few drinks, a few canapes, said a few words. You respect me, I'll respect you. It's as simple as that. It was a good atmosphere, yeah. Now, plenty in store tonight.
First, it's National Teenage Week. So every day we've been focusing on a different aspect of teenage life and getting down with Britain's youth.
Oh, yeah.
Take a look.
What's up?
And we're off.
Yeah. Now very quickly, now we're co-hosting, we should probably meet at mine for a lasagna once a week. You know, just to get to know each other, foster a bit of rapport. Doesn't have to be lasagna, it could be fish and chips on the cenotaph with a couple of cans.
Okay, lovely. Yeah, I think
Good.
it's a great idea.
Thank you.
All right. No, it's good. And you're right about the chemistry. It's all about the chemistry.
Great.
I feel like the audience can just smell insincerity.
Absolutely.
It's like an animal instinct.
It is an animal instinct. Have you ever seen Noel Edmonds talk to contestants? They won't let cats in the studio because they start to hiss. Yeah.
Well, look, I think it will be fun because it will give us a chance to air any concerns, any quibbles, and it'll be great.
This is Dale.
Oh, hi, Dale. I'm Jenny. Nice to meet you.
What do you mean quibbles? What do you mean?
I'll tell you later.
You can't do that. Tell me now. You can't do that. Tell me.
All right, fine. It's your diction.
Thank you. Welcome back.
Tomorrow, our focus is on teenage angst and the troubling issue of self-harm.
Well, that's a tough issue, actually. The closest I've ever come to self-harm, I guess, would be I used to pluck nasal hairs when I was angry with myself after a show had gone badly. Sometimes poke my skin with one. I think that would make a good sword for an ant.
But today, we look at youth unemployment, a trend that has caused particular decay among Scottish inner cities.
And yet I know, anecdotally, from friends with large gardens, that Scottish people can make great workers. It's a shame.
We're joined on the sofa by Dale Daniels, himself long-term unemployed, who now campaigns to improve prospects for Scottish youth.
Dale, thanks for joining us.
Welcome.
Aye.
Now, you're furious, aren't you? Even for a Scot.
Well, so should everyone be, huh? And they've
Absolutely.
a so-called developed nation, you know, letting kids rot away in these estates, huh? When I grew up...
I thought you were... Please.
When I grew up, there was industry, there was factories, and shipbuilding in the Clyde, you know, work if you wanted it. That's not there anymore, huh? And
Absolutely.
What?
Sorry.
So what happens? You know, I mean, kids fall into a cycle of crime and we lay the blame at them. But we did that, huh? You don't agree?
No, I do.
So how do we get out of this vicious cycle? Is it education, training?
Aye, but it's bigger than that, eh?
Eh.
It's, you know, it's about seeing the world from their point of view, huh?
No.
You know, we closed down Sure Start and football pitches and youth centres and you wonder why the kids get into bother, huh?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you have any kids, huh?
Eh.
Huh?
Yeah.
Huh. Well, I've got a 13-year-old, yeah, and that's why I'm saying to the government, all you're doing is building problems for the future, huh?
It's amazing, because weirdly, what you're saying actually makes sense.
Eh? Aye.
Aye.
Good.
Good. Jenny.
Well, thank you so much, Dale Daniels. Finding the time to stay in shape isn't easy. I donned my sweatbands and leotard to find out how one street in Walsall are getting in shape. To help us look at the discipline of yesteryear, we sent Alan back to his old school.
I must warn you that this film contains teachers some viewers may find disturbing. This is St Jude's High School, a secondary specialising in the performing arts and media studies. But back in the 1970s, it was an actual school, and I was a pupil here. Today, the corridors of St Jude's are alive with the sound of laughter and play. Back then, however, the school echoed with an altogether different noise. The noise of corporal punishment. Thrashings were the order of the day back then. The only ways to avoid a walloping, keep out of trouble, or get homeschooled like Dominic Bentham. Although I think he ended up killing himself in his 40s. Alas, for those of us schooled in the classroom, the finger of blame didn't always land on the guilty.
Partridge! What is that? Bring it here. And stop gawping, for crying out loud.
Ordinarily, I'd see a boy taking the long walk to the teacher's desk and think he was being disruptive. Go on, sir, batter him. But on this occasion, that boy was me.
What is it?
It's a picture of you, sir, with a penis where your nose should be.
Is that what you think I look like?
It wasn't me, sir. It was Smithy. He's from a broken home.
Something changed in me that day. I had walked to school a boy.
Now sit down, you lemon.
But I returned home a big boy. Fortunately, what the psychotic teachers of the 1970s lacked in self-control, they also lacked in technique. Inexperienced teachers would often opt for a one-handed stroke with little backlift and a short follow-through. But swing analysis from my squash coach reveals this to be both ineffective and inaccurate. With little rotation of the hips, the backswing ends here, which means the maximum arc of the swing is shortened, and an unsteady stance means energy dissipates as the swing is completed. But watch what happens with a firmer base and a longer backlift. In this case, the swing stops here. Look at the line from the shoulder all the way down to the knee. The wider stance creates stability so that energy can be transferred from the standing leg all the way to the front knee. And with the hips rotated right round, the striker is like a coiled spring. If we play on, watch now how all of that force is driven down through the arc of the swing, picking up speed, as the front knee bears all the weight, and then pow! The striker hits through the target, continuing to rotate the hips until he ends up in a finishing pose that is the mirror image of the backlift. Impressive. Eventually, corporal punishment was subject to a blanket ban, except in emergencies. But the memories remain. Sore heads, swollen knuckles, rosy red bum cheeks. Sounds funny. Don't feel funny.
But first, how many of you out there are 100 years old? More than you might think. National statistics say there are 14,000 centenarians in the UK.
And that's enough to fill the Birmingham Arena.
Wow.
Yeah, although presumably they need a lot more toilets.
The latest addition to that exclusive 100 club received her telegram from the Queen this very morning. And as her granddaughter writes, she's a big fan of this show. Aw, here's what she wrote.
20 seconds.
Where's my fucking water? I made it very clear I need a glass of water after exercise, or else white saliva forms at the corners of my mouth. Whose is this?
That's mine now. Careful, it's fizzy.
What?
And I'm delighted to say Rose Haig joins us on the line now. Rose, are you there, my love?
Well, of course I'm here. Where else would I be?
Rose, many congratulations. Excuse me. Congratulations.
Hello?
There we go. Rose, can you tell us where...
No, leave it here. Here. Because if you leave it there, I can't reach it, you stupid girl.
Rose, I believe your father was a captain
Now, of course,
stationed in the
I
army.
grew up in the Raj, 1930s.
Yes.
It's perfectly pleasant. One can be rather misty-eyed. Of course, the hangover was rather botched. Mountbatten did what he could, poor old Dickie, Radcliffe.
That's lovely. I was just wondering about the secret to your old age.
I'm talking, young man. You
Sorry.
normally interrupt people when they're speaking.
I've been called a young man for quite some time.
Stop mumbling. Why are you staring at me? What's your name?
I'm a Partridge.
Your point being, we had a houseboy. Not a friend, you understand, an
Right.
employee.
Okay.
He used to run errands, and we called him Brownie.
Right.
Not the sharpest of fellows, but curiously, he was not an Indian.
Okay.
He was a Negro. And they are very different, because whilst physically stronger, they...
Oh dear, we seem to have lost Rose there. But yes, a great achievement and a colourful character.
Different times, and apologies there for the wind and the racism. Now, mention our American cousins, and most people think weaponry, donuts, racism, and brown paper shopping bags with no handles. What's all that about?
Oh dear, I thought you were having a stroke there. But there's much more to America than that. Time for New SA, our first regular update on the state of the states. We're joined by our very own Ruth Duggan for a segment as American as Mum's apple pie.
I thought you were having
and
a
who
stroke.
doesn't love Mum's apple pie?
Well, sure I would. I met your mum, but I imagine a kind of Nanette Newman type, crimping crusts and cutting out love hearts from excess pastry to plonk on the top of the pie lid.
Something like that. What about your mum's?
Well, I love my mum, but I have to say she made bad pies. And even though she loved me, she managed to make a pie without putting any love into it whatsoever. So, yeah, just chopped apples, pastry, lots of brown sugar, but, as I say, no love. But, Ruth, I bet you loved your mum's apple pie. First up, police raid a house in Cleveland and find 4 dead men in a septic tank. Not the kind of story anyone likes.
I do, actually. I love anything like that.
Right.
Absolutely delicious.
Yeah, right, you mean the apple pie. And the same, though, Ruth. All the pastry turns into a fat back.
Well, quite. It's been described as a truly gruesome sight.
What?
A vision of hell. Dismembered limbs from as many
right,
as...
I think you've got a bit of delay on the line.
A delay on the line.
Copycat.
So I'll just try and soldier on as best... Sorry, I didn't quite catch that.
It's all right. I was just saying the same thing as you said.
I should just try and push on and assume that you can hear... Yep, go ahead, Alan.
No, you go ahead.
Shall
you
I
go
continue?
ahead.
So
you
I'll
go
try-
ahead.
I didn't
You
quite
go
catch-
ahead. It's like trying to have a chat on a webcam with someone in the Philippines. Or bloody anywhere in the world.
Yes, sorry, after you.
Ruth, stop talking. We're starting again. Nod when you get this. Now, Ruth, hello.
Hello.
Good. Do you like your mum's apple pie?
Yes.
And I believe the police have found the remains of 4 dead men in a house in Cleveland.
Yes, that's right.
Well, tell us about it and give us a long answer so we don't have to keep going back and forth.
Now?
Yes, now. I should knock on the side of your box.
Well,
Ignore
as
the
I said,
box thing.
it's a grisly discovery. And while the identities of the men haven't been... Sorry, the side of my box? The owner of the house has been named locally as 51-year-old Brian Crilly, now the subject of a full-scale manhunt.
Well, Ruth, I think we'll leave it there for today. Thank you.
You're welcome, Jenny.
Let you go and enjoy the sunshine.
Too hot for me, I'm afraid.
You back with us next week?
The week after.
See you then.
Bye-bye.
And here is the woman herself to tell us more about her new series that shines a light on women in science. It's writer and broadcaster Dee Gilhooly.
Just to clarify, by the way, some viewers may mistakenly think that your second name is Hooley and your first name is Deagle. In actual fact, your second name is Gil Hooley, your first name is Dee. That's a full name, not an initial.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Wicked to be here.
Cool.
So you're perhaps best known as one of the regulars on Radio 4's Woman's Hour.
Which, by the way, guys, well worth a listen.
Oh, I wouldn't have had you down as a fan, Alan.
Well, it's a curious story. I was actually stuck in traffic and Classic FM were playing music from an advert which I dislike. So I found myself listening to Woman's Hour and I thought, this is actually good.
Tell your friends.
I did. I told 10 men and they will tell 10 men and they will tell 10 men to tell 10 men to tell 10 men. It sounds like the kind of song you'd sing on a coach trip, but it's actually true.
Now, your radio series focuses on trailblazers and groundbreakers in the field of science.
Bang on, yeah. It's a chance for some brilliant, lesser-known women to have their stories told, you know what I mean? So, with all due respect to your Ada Lovelaces or Rosalind Franklins, we're going to be looking at women under the bonnet, as it were, the fuel in the turbocharger.
Because there's some fascinating women here. We're talking Vera Rubin, Nettie Stevens, Cecilia Payne. I mean, brilliant women.
Oh, kick-ass women. Yeah, Cecilia Payne's actually is an amazing story. A British astronomer, got her doctorate at 25, boom. And she wrote a paper on the composition of the stars, but was persuaded not to publish it by her colleague Henry Norris Russell. Years later, her findings were published and credited to, you've guessed it,
Henry Norris Russell?
Bingo. You still with us, Alan?
Yeah. So I'm sorry to... Actually, it makes me physically sick to say this, but I was miles away. Which shows this is a real problem within men, isn't it? What I will say, the purposes of clarification, is you don't put fuel in a turbocharger. It's a small turbine housed within the exhaust that utilises excess gases, loops them back round, increases power output. So small capacity engine, big hike in power, very efficient. That was told to me by an engineer in oily overalls called Karen. Woman.
Fair play. Yeah. Well, because women in jobs like that have to put up with their fair share of jeering, you know, even now in 2018, and they just have to accept it.
If I can just speak as a male, I'm sorry, I have sinned. I've stood on the pavement with other men and slow hand clapped as I watched a woman try to parallel park. And that's wrong. And I think if I saw the same thing happen today, I would just, you know, shout out instructions.
Or just leave her alone.
Yeah, I'd shout out instructions or just leave her alone. I'd ask her which she prefers.
Or just leave her alone.
Or just leave her alone. Yeah.
These issues need to be aired by women. We're still seeing powerful men harassing women when all they want to do is do their jobs and be left alone.
Amen.
Hey, women. I mean, I feel you. I feel you. I don't mean I feel you. I wouldn't do that unless I was your doctor or your boyfriend. But I totally identify with what you're saying.
Well, I think the Me Too's a woman thing,
Yeah,
really,
exactly.
isn't it? I mean, I'm not sure it's that helpful for a man to presume to know what that's like, to be honest, but anyway.
Of course it is.
Yes.
You know, if men actually listened to what women were saying on harassment, then they'd shut up and listen, but they don't. You know, so we're still seeing the same things time...
I've been sexually harassed.
I'm sorry, I wasn't aware.
It's not quite the same thing that women have been through, but it is a bit. Hilary Couchman, Dr. Hilary Couchman. How long have humans been swearing?
Well, curse words or vulgarities go back really as far as language itself. But when it comes to written English, we find profanities cropping up from the 13th century.
So, something like this. Should I wear gloves to handle
The
this?
protocol is that the curator handles the material.
Oh, OK, right. I'm pretty sure I've seen Dr. David Starkey handling stuff like this on TV. And I've even seen them let Tony Robinson have a fiddle.
The protocol is the curator handles the material.
You said that. Do they ever let you guys go to an area just to relax? Because they should do. Maybe that should be part of the protocol. Swearing, swear words.
One of the more prominent words is the word f***, but c*** too is also common across the Germanic and Scandinavian languages. Yeah. We also find uses of piss, c***,
Well,
shit,
what areas would these profanities emanate from? I'm thinking Manchester, Liverpool.
No, from across the whole country.
OK.
Now, what we have here are parish records from Drayton in Shropshire.
When would that be?
1295.
That's what these trousers cost.
So, What these documents show is how the earliest instances of swear words were typically found in the names of places or people. So surnames often describe what someone was or did.
Right.
Here we have a listing for Henry F***a-beggar.
Goodness me.
Now, back then, the word f*** didn't have its current meaning.
Okay.
It actually referred to hitting or striking.
Right, good. Well, hence the phrase, let's hire some Albanians to f*** him up.
So there are terms that have fallen out of use. So here in 1740, we have the term rantallion, which means one whose scrotum is so relaxed as to be longer than his penis.
One wonders whether that's due to a truncated member or distended testes.
Well, I guess it's just chicken and egg. We also find some fairly vulgar slang words for penis, such as beard splitter and arse opener, whilst fellatio was known as bagpiping.
Oh, makes sense.
In the 1785 book, the Classical Dictionary of the Vulgar Tongue, we find the term to huffle. Would you like to have a guess at what that means?
Oh, gosh, I'll have a bash. To huffle, the act of putting my head between a lady's breasts and huffling. You get the picture?
No, it's another word to fellate.
Right, OK.
I always find it amusing when I ask people that question, what answer I'll get.
Right, well, that's an interesting part of the protocol. Thank you very much, Dr. Hilary Mantell.
Couchman.
One who likes to squat over another...
It's my surname.
Right, yes, of course.
We are so, with several O's, excited to be here with fashionista extraordinaire Tommy Chaucer. Tommy.
Hi, and excited is right, because today is all about the skirt. After 2 years of heavy tailoring with all manners of trouser, baby, the skirt is back.
OK.
So cop a feel of these. Now, our first skirt is a circle skirt, modelled by the beautiful Kirsty.
Hello.
Just £65.
She can't be. Oh, you mean the price?
And it's a skirt that's an expression of joy. It's summertime, it's good times, it's light, it's airy, and it's fun.
It's a happy skirt,
Yes.
isn't it? It's very elated.
It's over the moon.
It is. It's chuffed to bits.
Can't wipe the smile off its face.
It's billowy.
Like a windsock.
Like a windsock. Or like a tent.
Yes.
Or,
a marquee, wedding marquee,
like
maybe.
a big wedding marquee that's not been moored properly.
That's right. And you can see exactly what the skirt does for Kirsty's posture, the way she walks, the way she holds herself. And wow, Kirsty owns it.
Really? Oh, well, thank you for bringing it in, Kirsty.
I mean, she makes it work for her.
Oh, totally, yeah. I mean, Simon.
Yes.
Say something.
It's got a beautiful silhouette.
Yes, I mean, it is a great shape. It really is.
I would also add that it's comfortable, modest, and good for Sunday best. Useless.
And it's got 2 poppers, so you can adjust it if you do change in size or once a month, possibly.
Because when a woman enters the menstrual stage of a feminine cycle, she will swell around the tummy.
So let's bring out our next gorgeous girl, Julia.
Julia!
Now, this is a Dirndl skirt.
Now, this I love.
It's shaped like a bell, concentrated around the waist, around the hips, and this one is very on trend.
It is like a stripy bell with her legs as the hammer. Feel the fabric, Simon, then talk about it.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Have a feel.
Feel the fabric.
Oh. Yeah. Decent.
Yeah?
Exactly, and it's
Decent bit of skirt. So, no, sorry, I take that back.
Well, it's saying Dolce Vita, Roman holiday.
It is, it's saying...
Molto bene!
Molto bene!
Molto bene!
Molto bene! Not that loud, but, you know... There's no getting away from it, Tommy. Sometimes Simon and I can be outrageous, really can. Let's look at another woman in a skirt.
Our next skirt is modelled by the lovely Louisa.
Oh, very curvy stripes, like she's been squeezed out of a giant tube of
Colgate lady paste.
And we've paired the skirt with daring red shoes that really draw the eye. And it says I'm on the town, it says I mean business. It says I'm comfortable, but I'm nobody's fool.
Yeah, it's saying I'm a whirling dervish. Yes, I like to go to the office, but sometimes I like to sit on a park bench with Ryvita and Philadelphia looking sad. But it's also saying I'm happy, I like to leap in the air and sing, whoa, body form. That's, yeah.
It never bloody shuts up, this
Yeah,
skirt.
well,
What are you talking about?
it is a stripy chatterbox.
It is skirt.
It's a magnificent skirt.
Tommy, join me at the lady. I think this look works for Julia, but I can also see her perhaps with her hair up.
Totally. Excuse me,
like
my
this.
darling.
Thank you, darling. Maybe a shocking pink clutch bag, sleeves pushed up, LA Law style.
Totally. Hair up, daytime casual, hair down, one word, accessorise. Wrist, neck, ears.
Head, shoulders, knees and toes.
No.
Nails, lots of colour, accessories where you can really let your hair down.
Yeah, although I've just told you to put it up to me. She's smiling. Earrings, maybe a couple of big hoops. Just toss your head back and shake it around, let them clank against your neck.
Thanks, Louisa.
Thanks, sweetheart. That was sensational.
Less morning has broken, more morning has soaken, since every morning I have soaken or soaked my bed with perspiration. For this is the night sweats.
This is the amount of sweat squeezed from the pillow of an ordinary sleeper. It's empty. This is the amount of sweat squeezed from my sheets after they were passed through a mangle.
For I have the night sweats. But it's not just sweat I'm lying in, it's shame. I'm tired of waking up twizzled in damp duvet. Something needs to change.
Gate.
So I've come to the blandly named West Sussex Sleep Clinic. After filling in a needlessly detailed questionnaire, it was time for Jim Jams and watery squash.
These are my co-sleepers. Hi, Janet. They are amongst the worst sleepers in Britain. They are absolutely hopeless at it. But the chinwag over a glass of squash reminds us that we're not suffering alone. But our collective lack of sleep has rendered us all pretty irritable. Malcolm, there in the green sweater, thinks he's the bee's knees when he's not. Janet seems to think we want to know all about her. And Paul, Stripey Paul, is sad because he's got a dead dog. I'm going to make my excuses before someone gets chinned.
Back in my room, with my head sporting more cables and lights than my assistant's modem, I was ready. And so to sleep, perchance to sweat.
Fascinating stuff, and I'm joined by the clinic's sleep disorder consultant, Dr. Susan Lyle. Hello.
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 You took a peep at my sleep. What did you reap?
Okay, so yes, reviewing that night, so we can see that you were really quite restless, yeah, and quite fidgety here as well, but that's really very common, especially with light sleepers. It's really the brain's reluctance to enter into sleep mode.
Busy.
But it's also a sign of stress and anxiety as well, which we know can be a key cause of heavy nighttime perspiration.
I'm just going to spool on.
There's a moment coming up here which is something I think you should see, because what happens around about 1:30 is you enter something called stage 4 of NREM, and it seems that the cause of your night sweats is actually a different condition.
What?
I think what we're seeing here is parvor nocturnus, or night terrors.
Oh, my God. The last time my legs flailed like that was in a tent during an altercation with what I can only describe as a very big bee.
So what sort of thing do you have nightmares about? What scares you? So you've not been involved in anything traumatic or upsetting?
I recently abseiled down the side of the Shard for charity.
What? When?
Or was that a dream? I was doing it for the RSPCA, so yeah, so
that
it
must have been a dream.
Must
Must have been a dream. It's very disturbing.
Don't want to talk about him anymore. Tell me about you. You work at the clinic where I went, but I didn't see you.
Oh, no, but I could see you on the monitor. Well, I've worked there for 12 years, so yes, I've watched thousands of people sleeping.
Right, and do you enjoy it?
Yes, I love it. It's very rewarding.
Right, and why?
Well, something about observing patients as they sleep. I feel like I'm a guardian angel, you know, watching over them, protecting them.
But how are you protecting them?
Well, in that they're in my charge, so I could harm them, but I choose not to. So I suppose
in that regard, I'm protecting them from the darker side of human nature that is within us all.
Susan, great having you on the show. I don't have any more questions. Simon, do you? No. Good. I'm going to let you go.
I'm happy to talk more. You don't want me to stay for the phone?
Nah. Instead, let's talk to viewers and ask, what do you dream about? The lines are open, so tell us what you ponder in the land of Nod.